We are looking at Angie's wow. I think the wow is this first one. This sunset is definitely a wow. This has the potential to be a wow. The castle here. I would remove these people down here. And obviously you haven't done any Photoshop work on these, or you would have taken care of all of these dust spots on your sensor, which is very important for your finished work. So I'd like to see that kind of stuff removed. This is a nice overview looking in. One of the things that I want to point out to everyone is that you need to be thinking about your captions, and Angie's doing a good job with that. They're informative and letting us know what's going on, where you are. Sunset over the Baltic Sea is always spectacular. We enjoyed this sunset leaving I can't even pronounce it, Germany. Sorry, you guys, I'm horrible with these names. On 7/6/18, approximately 10:30 p.m. So that's what I'm looking for. And if you guys have been slacking on your captions, it's a problem. So start thinking who, what, where, when, why. Tell us a little story. You can always go back to your PDF and get some pointers there on what to be including. A lot of times it's nice to have a little narrative, especially if it's a family type thing, family vacation, a family trip. It just will help you remember things in the future. So take the time to make the captions. And Angie, as I said, is doing a good job with that on these. A caption is not a single word. It's not a name. A single word is a title. It's not informative most of the time. So as we're looking through these, you can kind of see what she's writing. Yeah, I am enjoying these photographs. But the big wow, let's go over here and look at this one, Commando. That's a fabulous shot. I'm not going to say get rid of the people here because it's about the people visiting this place. So that's perfectly fine. The reason why that other one bothered me is because it was more of a scenic. And the people didn't seem to be considered into the composition. So let's go back here, and that's this one that I was talking about. So the people are kind of an afterthought, especially with the cropping down here. And that would be an easy Photoshop removal right there. I'm moving over here to see these whites. So you're up in the 254, 253, 252 range for your whites. So I always recommend that you pull your whites down to an RGB of 250. And while we're here, let me just show you how to do that. If you just grab a curve, it's this top corner right here. And we just pull it down till the output says 250, or we can type in 250. That way, when you go to make a print of this, the white is going to have some tone in it. You can see that it very minimally changed things, but it's going to give you better print quality if you do that. So nice work here. Clean these photos up. I love this one. I think this is fantastic. And if I'm just pointing out little things, yeah, this is part of the water, these little white, but I would just remove those. Why? Because they don't need to be there. They're a little distracting. A lot of times people are told not to divide the horizon in the middle of the picture. I like it. I think it's working here. You've got beautiful colors in here. This is definitely a wow. The boat, a little less of a wow. I mean, it's cool and it's part of the history. This would be a good support image for your journey, but I don't think that this is necessarily a wow. Were you on that boat? So you did pull down the whites up here in the sky. That's a good thing on this. It's descriptive of place. I think it's a nice addition to the bigger story. I don't think that this one is a wow. Wows are hard, you guys. And if you get a couple of wows out of a trip, that's absolutely spectacular. So, and you did. You got a couple of wows here. Okay, so there you go. That's the first wow here today. Chris has some success here with his wow as well. I love what's happening in these images. This one is probably a standout for me. I love that reflection being captured, the sky, the tonality. Chris, make your files bigger for me. I know I sent you an email, so I think the next ones will be. But love this shot. Totally. A beautiful scene. Everything is anchored well. Well done. I love the reflections once again here on the water. Everything has a place. Everything has a balance. And then just another classic kind of scene. This one I think is less of a wow than those others, but it's a great photograph of place. So Chris is doing a good job also with captioning. Location: Tokyo's most famous bridge. The bridge is the main bridge to the Imperial Palace. It appears on guidebooks and postcards and is arguably the most famous bridge in Japan, even a symbol of Japan. So I can see why you made that a wow shot, but I think the others have more wow impact. Very informative, very well done on these captions. Oh, nice. The sign was recently refurbished and lit up for the first time in 21 years to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the brewery. Very, very good information. Built in 1941 for $5,000. The Grain Belt beer bottle cap sign was one of the largest freestanding neon signs in the region. The sign is approximately 50 feet wide and 40 feet tall. So maybe Chris went in there and this information was inside of the brewery, but maybe he did a little research to find this information as well online. So do the research and give us this information. It's really important to helping to tell the story, especially if you want to get into any kind of real travel photography. You're going to need informative captions. In dinner table view at 9,500 feet, Aspen's legendary restaurant, the Pine Creek Cookhouse, is nestled at the base of Elk Mountain. Alpine gourmet food featuring wild game and fresh fish is brought to life with organic, locally sourced ingredients. From field to stream, our chefs prepare cuisine made from scratch every day. So maybe part of that was a grab off of their website. You might want to think about that if you're going to do something like that, because it's someone else's words. It depends on how you're using it. So just something to think about. So well done with the captions. Very informative. And my wow is the Grain Belt and this Imperial Palace. Wow. I love that shot. I would love to see that big and printed on metal. We are looking at John Z's work for the WOW project. And he went to the Henderson Pavilion because he said he didn't see a shot of it that was WOW. So he thought of it, this would be a good location for this project. As far as WOW goes, I think this first image is the WOW. With the sun, it has good depth leading into it. I wouldn't call this necessarily a WOW image as a whole, though. That wow is an image that we see and we just go, wow. The place is kind of a wow, but I don't think that we caught it as an image. Okay? It's an interesting location, and it's definitely a wow location. It is spectacular, but I don't think we caught the wow shot here. Let's look bigger. So I might remove the trash can here. I might remove a little bit of this foreground here, this little thing. And I'm not sure. I think John doesn't have a ton of Photoshop skills, so that might be, in an upcoming class where you could focus on a few of those things. I think it's well composed. I like the balance that you've got going and leading us up into the image. So I think that's working really well. I like this not an entrance, no trespassing, all these no trespassing signs all along here. I think this is an interesting image. I like that it is definitely would fit into a little mini story of place. That's kind of how I'm looking at this project. It's like a little story of place, of a wowish place. Now, I see what's happening here. You're kind of exploring from the outside because you can't get into it. And I also know, I like this off kilter one too. I also know that because you did include that information in your captioning. So you started off with the Henderson Pavilion as one of those cool tension fabric roofs like the Denver Airport or San Diego Convention Center. I'd driven past it countless times, but I can't recall ever seeing an interesting photograph of it. So I thought, wow project. So I like that. It's informative. It's talking to the class. So you might want to think who you're talking to. So it's perfect for us. So you thought you'd walk in the front gate. Okay, the entrance, so maybe the entrance in the back, nobody's actually working there, so you can knock on the door, ask to get in. Side gate, no joy. Pretty ho-hum, but as wow as it got from the outside of the fence. Thanks for keeping it safe, I guess. So I think that's really humorous. I like that you're adding your humor in here. And it is really a story of not getting in. So it's a mini story that depends on all of the images. And that's okay. I like that. So that's something to think about. This would be a great little story for Instagram, an Instagram story. It would also be a great little Adobe Spark page where you could actually write those captions right in there next to the images so people would view it that way. And it would be more contained so people wouldn't read it as separate images. They'd read it as a whole. So that's something to think about for this. So there's our wow. I think the wow, you're right, is the place, but I don't think the wow is the photographs. So think about that. How could you make it wow? Can you go down there when they've got a live event going and photograph? I think they do some jazz there. Try to go for one of those free concerts. And add to the story. So go back and add to this. And let's see if we can make this the wow that you really wanted to make it. I see what you're thinking, and you're on your way. We are looking at Nancy's work now. So Nancy has 2 images towards her wow, and fireworks always get a wow because they are spectacular. And I think you did a nice job with this. One of the things I would do with my Photoshop skills is go in to the bottom of the frame and remove these little dots of light in here. They're distracting. I like how the fireworks and the tree are working together. I think that's really nice. I like that layering of the space. Not a shot that we see a lot of times with a firework. So very well done there. This one, I don't think this is a wow at the moment. You said that you thought it was a wow because of the sky, spectacular place. But it needs to be processed. So let me just show you a quick little example of what I would do. Right now, everything is just kind of flat and dull. If I look up at my histogram, there's not a lot on the white side. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over here and just push my whites over. So when I'm doing that, the front of the building's getting a little brighter. I'm starting to get a little highlight clipping, warning, but that's okay. I'm going to open up those shadows. Just by opening up those shadows, we're getting more wow. And then let's add a little bit of contrast in. We can pull down that highlight to make the sky more dramatic. Add a little bit more black in there. And it's just a little dance. I'm going to add a little clarity. So we went from this to this. There's detail popping out in the detail of the building. The sky is poppier. And I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. Now, once I've done that, I feel like the bottom might be a little awkwardly cropped. So I would like to see a little bit more space at the bottom of the frame. I want to see where this is hitting the ground. I might want to see the bottom of this tree. So let's open it up into Photoshop. And I'm just going to add a new blank layer. I'm going to grab my gradient. And let's just see what happens if I do a little gradient of black to transparency. So it's not looking that good. Why? Because it's dark. So I'm going to reduce the opacity a little bit on that layer. So now this layer is doing this. And then let's just run through some blend modes and see if we find one we like. So this is the overlay blend mode. So overlay versus normal. So it's helping it blend a little bit more. We don't want to add just flat color down, but by darkening up that base a little bit, it's becoming less important. And then we can start to push our eye up a little higher to the building, which is your main focus. So I think that that's working. So just a quick little layer here. And if I feel like I've done too much right in here, I just grab that handy dandy eraser tool and I make it nice and big. Make sure that I have a soft brush, which I did not. So now I've got a super soft brush. And I can just come in here and pull a little bit of that off of there. If it's too much. Okay, so I can go in and modify. So we went from this to this, helping a lot. I'm going to click back here on this layer. I'm going to grab my brush tool. I'm going to paint with black. Black is my foreground color. How big is my brush? It's pretty darn big. Make it smaller. I'm going to see if I can knock that down a little bit more. I'm only at 20% there, so let's knock that back up to 100%. So can't really do that right there, so I'm going to grab a new layer. And I'm just gonna kill some of those darker areas. Come back. This I'm finding a little distracting, so I'm gonna come here to my background layer. I'm gonna grab my clone stamp tool. I'm gonna make this a little bigger and see if I can just clone a little of this over into here. Oops. Command Z, if you do something you don't like, quickly undo it. We're just trying to minimize the base so that we're not spending any time there with our eye. So I should have made a background copy so we could see totally what it looked like. So it's pushing our eye upward. That's what we want. So now we are having more of a wow impact on this image. So work your Photoshop and finish the images. And that's for everyone. Before, after. So if you don't like what happens at the base, take care of it.